Hi there! Today I wanted to share a few insights that will help you get the most out of your Patreon tier. Music production, just like audio engineering, are not about knowing fixed recipes, but rather about understanding the main components of sounds, the characteristics of acoustics and sound reproduction, as well as the different tools available to control audio signals. Once you get familiar with those, there is a learning curve that demands regular practice with a relatively reliable monitoring setup. This practice will allow you to develop intuitive and natural reflexes when hearing a signal, deducting what it might need and what are the best ways to achieve it with the tools at your disposal and within context, of course. With that said, I built this Patreon around this idea. You will find the knowledge and the tips within the post and the videos, which you can complete by practicing and getting direct feedback and answers to your questions on a regular basis, therefore ensuring a smooth and enjoyable progression over time. Let's go through an overview of the content available and the order I would recommend you to explore it. The easiest way to explore the content is via a dedicated post. You can find it by typing how to get the most out of it in the search bar or simply using the link below this video. In this post you can find a link to my mission statement to have a better understanding of my vision when it comes to sharing knowledge and supporting you in your audio projects. Then you will see the different posts available listed in a logical order. Of course, if you already know something, feel free to jump through it, knowing it's always available if you need a few reminders later. Here is a brief description of each post that will help you better understand how they come together as a whole, allowing you to further develop your skills. So at first I would recommend you to go through those posts, maybe one per day or something like that. I try to keep them pretty short, around 5-15 minutes or so per post or per video usually. A few of those are a bit longer, of course, but sometimes you need that to remain complete and in-depth enough, of course. That being said, you can begin by learning about the listening environments and general concepts about sound, so the sound dimensions, frequency band, the gain structure. Those would be the two fundamentals where you will learn about acoustics and how sound propagates, how us humans perceive sound, what are psychoacoustics, etc. Of course, it's just an introduction. You do have a few links to dive a bit deeper if you want to go further into acoustics and all those definitions, but this will give you a good overview of what you need to know, especially even just this image could be just how you visualize sound when you hear any signal from a proper system, and this actually is going to be pretty useful in an upcoming post and things you will explore by yourself. Same goes for the frequency bands and just having proper adjectives basically and names and tags on the same thing, so that when you read the post you know what I'm talking about when I talk about sub bass or about bass or about mids, high mids, roughly, even though some people will say, oh, the high mids are not exactly from this value to this value and stuff like that, but that's just for us to be able to compare apples with apples and to be able to communicate better and more effectively. So you learn about those, laying really some foundations for the learning experience ahead. Then you will dive into learning what are the different stages of the mixdown, how to prepare the files for mixdown, like the cleaning, the editing, the gain writing, what are the different tools available to shape the audio, so the dynamic processing, basically tonal processing, spatio-temporal processing. So dynamic processing will be all the compressors, the gates, the expanders, transient designers, all of that you will learn about in this post. Tonal processing would be the EQs, filters, stuff like that. The spatio-temporal processing would be stuff like reverbs, delays, everything that has to do with time overall and placement. And then you also have an introduction to sound synthesis if you're more on the music production side of things and you want to get to know a bit better what is a VCO, a VCA, a VCF, how they come together, different modules to synthesize sound, be it additive synthesis, subtractive synthesis, wavetable, granular. So we go over a few things, and you actually have a video demo with a few examples to reproduce some classic sounds, synthesizing them. Then we have a little other post about monitoring and acoustics, which is just to go a bit further based on the first ones. It's quite interesting. It's quite essential in my opinion. Monitoring is really like the main thing, because if you can trust what you are hearing and you can rely on it and you know it well, your monitoring setup, you can take decisions better and faster, and ultimately that's really the key to being efficient in audio engineering and or music production. So it's really essential knowledge to go over, and that's why those are the audio fundamentals. With that said, we can continue with more demonstration of putting things in practice, and also shorter little tips. There was like most of the questions I got from producers I work with and for was about the low end and getting the low end right. And it's one of the trickiest things and the most challenging things in mixing and audio engineering overall, for many reasons, but mainly because it's the hardest part to monitor properly in a setup. So you do have a 3-part video series with the kick processing, the bass processing, and the kick and bass relationship and their integration in the mix, where I share all of my tips that I usually use to adjust and to make things fit harmoniously based on the artistic direction, the context, etc., and the source signals, of course. So I go through different scenarios, different tools, different techniques that you can then apply in different contexts. We do have a series of posts here that are shorter videos. Well, I say shorter, but some of them are actually quite long. They are all quite interesting, but you can pick them based on your interest and what you want to explore eventually. Getting more from your reverb is about adding inserts before and after your reverb, so you can further adjust and clean the signal without touching, of course, the integrity of the dry sound. The FabFilter Volcano 3 is a filter, but you can do some pretty amazing things with it, be it to use it as a non-linear EQ, to modulate in wild ways, to create a transient shaper or more. Mid-side EQ is what I use mostly for handling spatializations to a certain extent, and it's quite interesting to go over it. It's just a 3 or 5 minutes video, I think. Especially to keep your low-end mono compatible. It's very handy. How to hear and understand audio compression was one question I got also quite often. So I just share a few tips and techniques on how you could make a few little exercise and practice to better understand what each control on a compressor does and hear the effect really. So then the knowledge and the practice comes and the experience comes together, and you can really handle dynamics and compression more intuitively. The art of harmonic saturation. If you're not so familiar with harmonic saturation, I think you may enjoy this video. I also share some examples of classic use of saturation with classic tracks. It's a pretty cool video. And you have a bunch of other stuff. Expanding your audio interface is a bit secondary, but assuming you have a lot of hardware gear and you want to merge multiple audio interfaces on Windows, that was something that was not possible for a long time, and a few months or maybe just a few years ago now it has been, so it's really cool and affordable. The audio reference dynamic list is pretty cool too, to sharpen your ear and to put in practice the audio acoustics and monitoring tips. You can access the list here, and basically I've added comments to let you know what to focus on when you're listening to one of those tracks. It's taking a while to load sometimes because it's hosted on a kind of Google Sheet platform. This is so you can actually filter them, which makes it far easier when you're looking for something very specific. So let's say you're in techno and you really want to see techno references. So you got those for now, and of course it's meant to keep growing, but you still have a bunch for now. And you can check here, like, okay, this one was for the organic aspect and the spatialization of the acid line. This one is for the mix down and the depth and the space and the punch. And yeah, you know, all that stuff, the sound design here, the sound design, the mix, the evolution of the arrangement and the orchestration. So either it's an inspiration for sound design, either it's something very technical on the mix. Sometimes it's both coming together. The mix of the percussions, a solid techno mix, solid acid techno mix, etc. So that can give you also some insights if you want to roughly compare what's the amount of low end compared to the highs in the reference compared to my project. And maybe you can see if you are really far off or anything like that. So a lot of useful stuff. The common pitfalls to avoid in music production, those are little things that are far too easy to fall into and that you better watch out for. So not seeking magic recipes, for example, is one. Don't fall into the gear acquisition syndrome, or being actually working on your workflow and the way you produce rather than actually making music, although it's a balance, of course. And those kind of things, you know, not producing at calibrated level, which often cause you to go and do some back and forth or some compromises. Not overdoing processes or in general, sourcing bad audio quality, systematically processing everything, sometimes it doesn't need to, and much more interesting ones also in the third part. Then you have also a series with some quick tips for Ableton Live, although some things are applicable in any DAW, such as what's the sidechain gate technique, etc. But it's quite interesting to have those if you are using Ableton. And we are reaching slowly the end, at least for now, because of course all this content is still growing and I'm still publishing some content every month. I try to do at least 2 posts a month. Sometimes it's a bit more, sometimes it's a bit less. It can depend and vary a little based on how much you also claim your benefits. As the higher tiers, you get free mastering each month, you get free online sessions. Of course, when it's more requested, I have a bit less time to develop some posts. Also, if you have some specific questions or requests, you can definitely share those in Discord, and I'll be happy to look into them, to ask you a few questions to tailor the topic and the subject, and eventually to produce some content so that you can have answers. So we have the live stream VODs. So those are just full mixed down processes. It's usually around 2 to 4 hours. I don't cut anything in those. You have really the full stream from the intro, so you can skip the first 2 minutes and dive into it. And I'll try to do more. Ideally, I would like to do one every month, every 2 months, because now this is the best way to put all of those above in practice. So all of this knowledge coming into practice and how I apply them. And what's interesting in those is that I really take my time to explain why am I choosing this or that plugin, why am I applying those settings on that track in that context, etc. So I'm not saying, oh, you should do this on every bass in every mix, I don't know. So it's really going based on the genre, the artistic direction, the context, and finding solutions based on the knowledge we have and the tools we have at our disposal. Finally, you have the bass synthesis, concepts and examples, and you have the track production process. So it's more about production, but those are quite helpful also when you are beginning or still intermediate and you want to focus on those points. Finally, of course, it's important to know that all of those were the posts and the videos, but you also have access to some content. Basically, I could show you quickly how it looks. If you go here in the collections, you will see a collection called Patrons Benefit Success. Here you will see normally only the posts that you belong to, based on your tier, and let's see, for example, the member area. So here you have the access to your exclusive content library, which we'll visit in a second so you can see how it looks. Because I feel like some people forget maybe about this one. You get 1 stereo mastering per track per month, so you just need to go on Discord after you synchronize your accounts and you can create a new it's not actually a support ticket, I should edit that, but it's a claim benefit ticket. There is a dedicated channel for that. And the live feedback session booking, same thing. You can book your meeting when you want it to happen. And of course, the feedback and everything goes mostly via Discord, but you can do it via another platform if you are more comfortable and you don't like Discord. Finally, visiting here the member exclusive content, so you can see how it looks. You can access here and you will see basically different folders, so everything are quite organized. You have Ableton devices, so here you can find the full devices. You can find some Patreon exclusive devices, the dynamic EQ, which is a paid product you actually get for free when you are a patron. If you want to know how to install those or to use those, you just have to look at this image here. It's very simple. Simply download it. If it's in a zip, you will need to unzip it and you place that into the dedicated folder where you placed all your samples and your presets, like your user library or whatever. In Ableton or in any DAW, you just add the folder in your browser section and you will be able to use them and to browse them. I say in any DAW, but actually that's wrong because that's Ableton content only. That stands for the samples, of course, though. So if you go here in the samples and short loops, you will find again different samples. Some are related to specific projects. So this was like some electromagnetic interference samples recording. So you have them in 96 kilohertz, 32 bits, 48 kilohertz, sorry, and 24 bits, or the processed versions with actually some FX applied. And you have like maybe 30 of those or something, 50 of those, which are pretty fun. But yeah, if you want something more conventional, you can also visit the drums. You'll find kicks, you'll find hi-hats, you'll find a lot of stuff which you can browse from and use, of course, in your projects. You'll also find some multi-tracks and MIDI productions. You'll find some presets for some plugins, although now it's mostly the Volcano one that comes with the video. So that should give you a good overview of what's available on the Patreon. I hope you enjoyed this little tour and those little insights. And of course, if you have any questions or if you want some feedback, don't hesitate to reach out on Discord. Until next time, take care and stay productive.